Welcome back to Metal Mass.
And welcome to our new studio.
For those of you who are returning to the channel, you'll notice that we are in a completely new space, which we are super excited about. Looking forward to showing you what's beyond the camera, because it's not just this. For those of you who are stumbling across our channel for the first time, welcome.
Freaking welcome.
So with this new space, we want to mix it up a little bit.
Some of the regular things we're hoping to do is going to be kind of a discovery of the week sort of deal. Bands who are already established, music maybe that's been around for years, but we're just hearing it for the first time and we're really enjoying. And then of course we got to get into the new stuff. I mean, what's a music channel without new music? So any new releases that have happened throughout the week, we'll spend a little time with that, and then we'll wrap it up, album battles. So we'll pick 2 albums, of course, by opinion, that we think are pretty evenly matched, and then we'll throw it out in our community tab if you're on our channel, or it may just pop up in your feed too. You can vote on which album you think beats out the other, you can comment why, and it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we're excited to see the results of that. That being said, let's start with the discovery of the week. So the discovery of the week is a band, maybe you've heard of them, Nailed to Obscurity from Germany, Deutschland.
Dude, they were so good.
Yeah, so a little bit of background about this discovery is we went to go see Dark Tranquillity on their North American Moments tour. Dark Tranquillity, Cataclysm, and Nailed to Obscurity. So walking into this tour, we knew a little bit about Cataclysm, a lot about Dark Tranquillity, and almost nothing about Nailed to Obscurity. I think we've heard the name before.
Yeah, that's about it, maybe.
But watching them perform, great. They sounded great, they performed great.
Should be said that we found out that it was their first North American tour that they were ever doing.
That's right.
I don't know if it was the first show, I don't think it was, but it was awesome.
Bragging rights.
Hell yeah.
If you like Opeth, you'll like these guys automatically. So go listen to their music, you'll love them. Moving on to the next thing.
Ooh, we got our new release of the week. So this one is kind of a weird one. I'm excited about it, actually. Kind of inspired my outfit for this week. The Foo Fighters came out. So for those of you who haven't heard, the Foo Fighters are actually, the entire band is going to be starring in a movie. In line with that movie, they've released some songs. Dream Widow is like the band, supposed to be the band in the movie, basically. So Dream Widow came out with a song called March of the Insane. So it's Foo Fighters, but it doesn't sound like Foo Fighters. It sounds like Metallica. It's crazy good though. It was really entertaining to listen to.
Good old kill 'em all thrash Metallica.
100%.
Like if you're well versed in metal, like you'll only have to listen to a few seconds of the song and you just go thrash.
It was fun to listen to, and it fits Foo Fighters in my mind. I mean, especially like their older stuff. Like I don't know, these guys are just fun and creative, so it was fun to hear.
Yeah, so we will link put the link of that trailer in the description, so go ahead and look that up. It's gonna be fun. We're gonna go see it for sure.
100%. Give it a look.
Yeah, so to wrap this up is finally the album battle.
Yes.
So the 2 albums that we have chosen for this battle is Trivium's 2020 What the Dead Men Say and their 2021 In the Court of the Dragon.
Yes.
The reason why we picked these 2 albums is because, first of all,
we're absolute Trivium nuts.
Yes, that's true. But also, they're both really good albums, so closely released together, but they're different enough that they could, that we really don't know who would win if they got into a fist fight.
Absolutely.
That's where you guys come in.
100%. You've got to break it up. You got to tell us who's going to be the winner.
That's right. Go cast your votes.
Absolutely.
Well, let's get into the content.
Yeah!
All right, folks, for this video, we are diving very deep into controversy, something that has been, a hot topic for the last couple months. We are extremely biased. We definitely have our opinions, but we're gonna try and, look at this from every angle.
Absolutely.
Kanye West.
Kanye West.
Hey man, I'm a genius, all right? I'm the most talented musician in the world.
Now, if any of you have followed anything about Kanye West, there's a lot of controversy about him. But we're thinking about something a little more specific, and that's actually what some of our metal band friends have said about him and his music, which is interesting.
Okay, let's establish something real quick. Avenged Sevenfold. We like Avenged Sevenfold. Although we may not listen to Avenged Sevenfold as much as we did in middle school and high school, you know, we still appreciate them as a band who kind of got us to where we are right now. You know, we listen to, I mean, I want to say that our music tastes have matured. They were kind of a gateway band for me, for both of us.
Yeah.
That kind of got us to listening to the heavier stuff that we do now.
True.
That being said, the Stage, released almost 6 years ago, by the way, crazy,
Holy.
is their newest release, and you know, we liked it. So you know, them working on a new album, I mean, we're gonna go give it a listen. Obviously
100%.
It's not like one of our main bands that we listen to now, but we're still curious to see what these guys are doing. And now, you know, that curiosity is I don't want to say spiked, but been provoked.
Yeah, it has been provoked, I think, is a good term. So, you know, it all started, of course, you have the pretty typical communication from the band members being like, this album's going to sound like nothing you've ever heard before.
It's gonna be crazier than whatever Kanye West is doing at this particular moment.
It feels like every band says that about every album. I mean, pretty typically, any band that, like, is really taking time to make their new music, it's going to sound at least different. Probably to them, it's going to sound significantly different. But they pinned that to something a little more specific than just it's going to be different than anything you ever held before.
I mean, many of you have seen the article that Loudwire posted about Matt Shadow's statement that their new album is, and I quote, heavily inspired by artists like Kanye West. So initially reading that title, I was terrified.
Rap the new rock and roll. We the real rock stars, and I'm the biggest of all of them. I'm the #1 rock star on the planet.
But as you go in and actually read what he said and read the article, it's a little less. It becomes. I went from being enraged to being just disappointed. I mean, which are two different things. Now that's my opinion personally, and why is that? Because you know, I don't really listen to rap or pop. It's just not my thing. You know, it's just not my preference. But just the fact that Kanye West, it was even mentioned like in this interview, is just like, I don't know, it gives you a lot to think about. I mean, what does inspired mean? To what degree is the music inspired? You know?
Yeah, true. I think that's what makes it so tricky. Your first thought is like the instinct goes to their new album's going to sound like Kanye West, which
is
some
not
people
what,
love that.
Yeah, which is not what we would want.
No, not our taste. But you're right. There's a little more nuance to the article, so I think we should just read some snippets from it.
Yeah. Let's go for that.
Let's take a look. Okay, so you know, it added a bit more weight to this too, because some, you know, band members can say stuff, but the fact that two band members said very similar things about it makes it seem a lot more credible. So let's just give a look at first what Matt Shadow said about this. One of the quotes was he said that the new Avenged Sevenfold album was unlike anything that the fans have ever heard before from them, and it was heavily inspired by artists like Kanye West. The thing about Kanye is that he's pulling from such great soul music. I didn't grow up with that stuff. My dad listened to Boston and Alice Cooper. I didn't get that taste of black music and old soul. So diving deep into jazz musicians, we're not trying to do a jazz record, but the chord changes and progressions are so eye-opening to us.
Yeah, I mean,
Interesting.
and then that provokes a thought that's like, you know, rock. Obviously, metal derives from rock and roll.
Jazz.
And if you trace rock and roll back, you know, it goes straight to R&B and jazz.
Yeah.
As weird as it is, like rap, if you trace it back far enough, comes from the same roots.
Yeah. I think another key point about what he said too is that he stopped to say, we're not making a jazz album. And to me, you know, we're kind of leaning into a bit of assumption here, but to me it seems like he's just saying, listen, we're still making an Avenged Sevenfold record. It's just, we're like you said, chords, progressions. Like, this is gonna sound jazzy, but it's gonna be like jazzy metal versus straight up R&B, versus making a Kanye album.
Yeah, so
which could be different.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because I think the first thing that comes to mind is Avenged Sevenfold is now going to make a Kanye West album.
Yeah,
which is not necessarily what they're saying.
No. not necessary.
So, and then it goes back to like, to what degree is this inspiring the music? I mean, there are so many different components of how music is composed, you know, how it's written, and like that could inspire any, you know, part of that process.
Yeah.
We just don't have enough details, I don't think, to know exactly how artists like Kanye West and music like that is going to, you know, flow into this album.
Yeah, it's true. And yeah, it might just be a limitation, like maybe from an artist's perspective things just look a little different, but I think we can get a little bit of a taste of what more of that might look like by actually looking at some of the things that Synyster Gates said about it, which it's interesting. It's a slightly different perspective and adds a little bit more detail to the conversation, which I think is cool. So something that I'll be the first to admit is that I'm not super familiar with like R&B music. I do branch out from metal, but typically not one who would be on a whim listening to a Kanye album or things like within that realm. You know, I've just been burnt. The reason why, maybe we should clarify this too for all those who are banging their keyboards right now because they just hate us, but the reason why is I've given similar artists a chance and I've been burned too many times just feeling like the overall genre is too often just taken over by people who are just spitting out music that doesn't really have a lot of talent involved with it. It's really just a money-making scheme to just say, how can we make the easiest music possible as quickly as possible to make a lot of money really fast? And I just feel like that's just poison to the music industry, and it just makes it so difficult for people who really put in a lot of passion and effort into their music. But that's not a guarantee that Kanye West is exactly like that. So anyway, that was an aside. Let's get to what Sin said about this. So I'm just going to read. It actually came from an Instagram post. He does something, I haven't been following this very closely, but he does like an album of the month feature, which I think is pretty cool. And so he says, this month's album of the month is very special to me because I believe you'll learn so much from it. It's My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy by the eccentric Kanye West, his words. It says, it's a clinic on songwriting, arrangement, dynamic, the eclectic, performance, and mixing. So it goes into a lot of specifics there, which, as an avid music listener, I don't actually know too much about this because I'm not an avid music producer myself. Maybe some of you out there are and can glean a little bit more from this and maybe write in the comments what he means, and maybe if you're a Kanye fan, maybe you'd be familiar. He says, I don't expect y'all to be thrilled about this, but this artist has elongated my band's career by inspiring us to create when it felt like we had no more to say. Later on, he says,
this is the worst part for me.
It's sad. I have to be honest. Hearing someone shred or play a rad riff on the guitar no longer inspires me to pick up mine. Over the last decade, I've made it my life's work to go through the YouTube rabbit hole to source new techniques, equipment, and beyond. I've done this to help create the world's greatest guitar school. I also use these techniques in tricks and solos, and I feel like it gives me an edge, so win-win. So yeah, first thought of that is just sadness.
Heart crushing.
And I think it is because that kind of stuff really inspires us. It does just suck because something that inspires us, and even the playing the rad riffs from Synyster Gates is what inspires us.
Him shredding his guitar inspired us.
Yeah.
So it's like to hear that is
hard.
like just, man, it feels like just a
dagger to the heart.
Yeah.
A betrayal. And that's why I think it's so emotionally visceral to hear some of these things. But overall, I've given a lot of thought. I can appreciate the perspective from someone who is a master at their craft and who has spent decades looking at one genre of music saying, I know everything there is to know, or I know enough about this that it just doesn't really, give me that magic anymore. I gotta try something new, or at least hear something that inspires me. So respect, I guess, in that way.
I mean, when it comes down to it, I honestly think that this is information that I would have just been better off not hearing.
That's true. Because the album, you know what? The album will probably be pretty cool.
Yeah,
if I'm gonna be honest.
it generates this like predetermined bias. We did like the stage, stage, the song, the title track itself. I still think it's just a great song. I mean, they could come out tomorrow and say, "Hey, by the way, we didn't say this ever, but the stage is heavily inspired by artists like Nicki Minaj," and then that would just create just a new thought process when I hear that song.
That's true.
So like I said, it's just like, I just wish I never heard it in the first place. Because you know what?
It's true.
Had I not heard that this new album was inspired by artists like Kanye West.
It's funny to say, like, if they just came out and said, oh, the stage was influenced by Nicki Minaj. It's funny to say that, I think, especially because it just wouldn't make any sense. It's like, I mean, sure, maybe we don't know much about Nicki Minaj, but I would venture a guess that if you are a huge Nicki Minaj fan and you listen to the stage, there's not going to be a lot of crossover. It's not going to make much sense. So it's hard to have them say this about their album and not think there's going to have to be... You're going to have to hear some Kanye in the next album, which, I don't know. It'll be interesting.
I realize that there are some people out there who are both Kanye West fans and Avenged Sevenfold fans that are psyched. Like... And they're happy, you know, like this is a win for them. And it's like, it's just kind of how the world works. Just because like a bunch of us are ticked off about it, there are people out there who are really, really excited for this.
No, and I think that's a good point. And we'll kind of end this more on that positive note. You know, actually, even myself, as I've given it a lot of thought, and I listened to My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy full way through a couple days after we first started talking about this. And, you know, it didn't blow me out of the water. I think it's probably partially my bias, partially I'm not super familiar with the ins and outs of the genre. But I will say I had times where I sat there and I thought, damn, this is pretty cool. So I've landed in this weird middle ground where I'm kind of like, I'm not necessarily excited, but I'm really curious. And I think that's a positive.
Yeah, I think curiosity is the good way to explain how we're feeling now. You really have to kind of step back and just realize that they're artists and they draw inspiration from different sources. And you know what? To me, I think the Avenged Sevenfold for me personally was at their best when their source of inspiration was the loss of, you know, their best friend.
Yeah,
and
it's true.
I could feel the power and the emotion behind that loss, you know, with some of the subsequent stuff that came out after, you know, both like during and after that.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's their decision. They are, you know, they are the band. They are Avenged Sevenfold, and they can do what they want because it's who they are.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say Avenged Sevenfold knows a hell of a lot more about Avenged Sevenfold than we will ever know. So, you know what?
It's true. And you know
respect.
What? Honestly, like, and we're not bitter people. We're not saying like, oh, because they're doing this weird thing with Kanye West, we're not even going to listen to it. Obviously, we're going to go listen to it. Like, why wouldn't we? We're just kind of here to discuss it with you guys, you know, kind of approach it from different angles and whatnot. And you know, this happens with bands. Everyone wants them to continue to do what they've been best at, but you know, sometimes they just can't. Sometimes there's no room for growth there, and they have to just, you know, explore a new space where they can really, you know, try new things.
Everyone's gonna have their own opinions, and we'd love to hear yours. I mean, honestly, like, some of you are gonna be music producers, some of you are going to be Kanye fans, some of you are going to be Avenged fans, or all of the everywhere in between. We'd love to hear what your thoughts are, your perspectives. I think that's kind of the magic of music, because everyone kind of comes from a different perspective and taste. So we'd love to hear it.
This is a community. This is what this whole channel is about, you know, to share opinions and to kind of just like discuss what's going on with metal.
Absolutely. So let us know. Excited or not? You want more Kanye and metal, less Kanye and metal? Either way, let us know. We'd be interested to hear your points.
Well, may metal be with you.
Blessings be upon you.
Amen.
Amen.